There arrives a point in your journey when you suddenly notice you're no longer truly comfortable in the world you've created. But you're also not yet fully inhabiting the life your deepest self yearns for. It's an unusual, holy territory, a realm of pressure, of gentle resistance, of understanding you were designed for something greater while still awakening to identical routines, identical surroundings, identical layers of your former identity. This isn't defeat. This isn't bewilderment. This is the dimensional threshold, the instant before transformation. And your response here determines everything. You're not isolated in this territory. Actually, if you're here experiencing this message, you've already entered it. You've sensed the internal pull between the existence you possess and the existence you sense was inscribed in your essence before you even manifested here. You've sampled previews of that tomorrow, perhaps in visions, in contemplation, in how your pulse quickens when you envision it. Yet the inquiry persists. Why does it continue to seem so distant? This is the contradiction we seldom discuss, that the hunger for growth frequently starts in a location that resembles limitation. That prior to the revelation arrives the dissolution, not in turmoil, but in gentle discord. The practices that previously soothed now seem restrictive. The dialogues that formerly engaged now seem empty. The iteration of you that previously aligned so perfectly now resembles clothing that's become too tight. And here's what's real. This unease isn't something to repair. It's the start of your realignment. Most individuals attempt to silence this territory. They browse, consume, avoid. They persuade themselves that perhaps the vision was excessive. Perhaps it's more secure to compromise. But you didn't arrive here to compromise. You came to transform, and not merely symbolically. You came to alter your complete energetic essence to harmonize with the dimension that is currently summoning you. However, to accomplish that, you initially must comprehend the divine strength of this middle ground. This territory is not the lack of direction, it's the origin of synchronization. And the pressure you experience, that's vibrational information. It's your essence revealing to you the disconnect between your actions and your authentic nature. You're not trapped, you're expanding. And what you expand toward will rely entirely on what you select to believe, experience, and transform into from this moment onward. We've been conditioned that change occurs with a crash, a spectacular incident, a revolutionary external shift. But in dimensional terms, change occurs at the level of resonance. It occurs when the witness, you, transforms not merely what they perceive, but how they perceive. It occurs when you cease pursuing the iteration of yourself you wish to become and begin radiating the resonance of that iteration right now. So halt for an instant and question yourself. Who is the iteration of me that currently inhabits the existence I desire? How do they process thoughts? How do they inhale? What do they refuse to accept? What do they attract effortlessly? That iteration is not imagination. In the dimensional realm, that iteration currently exists, and the sole reason you haven't merged with it is because the present you continues broadcasting the frequency of yesterday. This is not accusation. This is your emancipation. The distance between your present existence and your ideal existence is not emptiness. It's a connection. But the connection is not external to you. It's constructed of decisions, convictions, resonances, instant-by-instant calibrations. And at this moment, in this precise inhalation, you are either strengthening yesterday or extending toward tomorrow. Here's what most individuals overlook. The dimensional transformation doesn't occur after everything synchronizes. It occurs when you choose to synchronize. The transformation isn't something you organize, it's something you embody. And embodiment isn't noisy, it's nuanced. It's in how you react to discomfort, how you maintain your vision in quietness, how you decide to trust before witnessing. So if you sense like you're drifting between realities, you are. And that's not an error. It's the boundary of your development. You're not misplaced. You're being welcomed into harmony, into authenticity, into a dimension that currently acknowledges you but requires you to acknowledge it initially. But let me share something most people don't realize about this in-between space. It's actually the most creative zone you can inhabit. Think about it. When you're no longer bound by the limitations of your old reality, but haven't yet solidified into your new one, you exist in pure potential. This is where miracles happen, where impossible becomes possible, where the laws of your previous world no longer apply. I've worked with thousands of people who've experienced this dimensional threshold, and there's a pattern I've noticed. Those who resist this space, who try to rush back to certainty or force their way forward, often find themselves cycling back to old patterns. But those who learn to dance with this uncertainty, who treat it as sacred creative space, they're the ones who experience true transformation. Here's what's happening on a deeper level during this phase. Your nervous system is literally rewiring itself. Neuroscience shows us that when we consistently expose ourselves to new thoughts, feelings, and experiences, our brain begins forming new neural pathways. But here's the catch. The old pathways don't disappear immediately. For a period of time, both the old and new exist simultaneously, creating what feels like internal conflict or confusion. This is why you might find yourself feeling excited about your future one moment and terrified the next. Why you might take 3 steps forward and then seemingly 2 steps back. Your brain is essentially running 2 operating systems at once, and it takes time for the new one to become dominant. Because here's the dimensional mystery. Your ideal reality isn't merely awaiting you, it's observing you, responding to every micro decision, every energetic adjustment, every choice to respect your elevated journey. And the instant you decide to believe that this territory between 2 worlds is not punishment, but a gateway, is the instant everything starts to shift. Before the transformation can occur, something must release. Not your aspirations, not your brilliance, but the obsolete iteration of you that was designed to endure, not to flourish. And this is one of the most sacred and most misinterpreted aspects of any dimensional shift. Because releasing an old persona isn't a mental technique, it's a biological metamorphosis, and it frequently resembles grief. And because it is, your present reality is the reflection of your present persona. The thoughts you generate, the beliefs you maintain, the feelings you experience each day, they're not accidental. They're a transmission. And the iteration of you that formed this reality accomplished this with accuracy, even if subconsciously. It was constructed on narratives, some inherited, some selected, but all recognizable. And now, for the transformation to occur, those narratives must dissolve. This is the dissolution, not of your value, not of your significance, but of the energetic framework that's been supporting a version of you that no longer corresponds with where your soul is traveling. It's the dissolution of the survival identity, the accommodator, the overthinker, the skeptic, the one who required guarantee to feel secure. And when this dissolution starts, it doesn't always seem empowering. It resembles being reduced to your core. Old patterns suddenly seem meaningless. Old relationships may start to diminish. You may feel confused, even misplaced. But this is not retreat. It's a purification. The dimensional realm doesn't react to who you were. It reacts to who you're being presently. And you cannot generate a fresh reality from the energy of your history. Now here's something crucial that most spiritual teachers won't tell you. This dissolution process has distinct phases, and understanding them can help you navigate this transformation with more grace and less resistance. Phase 1 is what I call the awakening discomfort. This is when you first begin to notice that your current life no longer fits. Everything feels slightly off, like wearing shoes that are the wrong size. You might feel restless, unfulfilled, or like you're going through the motions. This phase can last months or even years, and many people mistake it for depression or a midlife crisis. Phase 2 is the resistance storm. This is when your ego mind realizes that change is coming and fights back with everything it has. You might experience increased anxiety, self-doubt, or find yourself creating drama and chaos as a way to avoid moving forward. Old patterns become more intense before they dissolve. This is actually a good sign. It means the transformation is working. Phase 3 is the void. This is the space we've been talking about, where the old has died, but the new hasn't fully emerged. It's characterized by uncertainty, a sense of floating, and often a deep questioning of everything you thought you knew about yourself and life. This phase requires the most trust and surrender. Phase 4 is the integration. This is when your new identity begins to stabilize, when the new neural pathways become stronger than the old ones, when your new reality starts to reflect your transformed inner state. But even this phase has its challenges as you learn to navigate the world from your new perspective. Understanding these phases helps you realize that wherever you are in this process, you're exactly where you need to be. The discomfort isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's confirmation that you're doing something right. Let's establish this with knowledge. In dimensional mechanics, the action of observation dissolves a wave of possibilities into a single reality. Your persona operates the same method. When you continuously observe yourself as the one who battles, the one who never completes, the one who's too delayed, too intense, or insufficient, you dissolve into those same restricted timelines repeatedly. And here's the surprise. The realm doesn't distinguish between what you believe from habit and what you believe from reality. It simply reacts. So when your internal persona remains connected with the resonance of fear, uncertainty, or limitation, the external world must mirror those distortions back to you, not to punish you, but to demonstrate where you're still resonating from yesterday. So question yourself with kindness. What aspect of me is still attempting to deserve love instead of expressing it? What version of me is grasping control because they don't trust the process? What behaviors am I defending because they maintain my safety, even if they maintain my smallness? This is the spiritual operation, the moment where honesty becomes the catalyst for ascension. Because only when you recognize the patterns that no longer benefit can you consciously dissolve them. And that dissolution isn't a moment of devastation. It's a sacred deconstruction. It's the space where the old programming unwinds so that something fresh can appear. And here's the magnificence of it all. You don't need to pause to feel prepared. Preparation is a byproduct of alignment. When you decide to abandon the persona that is attached to your past, the realm starts to react immediately. Not because everything transforms overnight, but because you have transformed. And the realm always reflects the being, not the action. Releasing is an energetic choice. It's when you cease identifying with the voice that declares, "I'm not ready yet," and begin acting from the voice that states, "I've already started." You don't need to force this transformation. You need to sense it, to surrender the story that claims it's too late, or too difficult, or too vast for you. Because your ideal reality isn't waiting for you to be flawless. It's waiting for you to be authentic, to cease pretending you're not prepared, to cease delaying your strength, and to begin aligning unapologetically with the version of yourself that currently exists in the vibration of your next phase. This is not arrogance. This is evolution. And sometimes the most spiritual action you can take is allow the old version of yourself to mourn. Not because it was incorrect, but because its moment has concluded. And as you acknowledge that version with appreciation, you create space for a fresh, energetic design to emerge. A design of liberation, of completeness, of harmony. So if you're experiencing the discomfort of release, the pain of internal restructuring, trust it. You are not breaking down. You are falling into alignment. And the dissolution you're experiencing now is not an ending. It's the beginning of the transformation. Everything you encounter is composed of energy, not symbolically, actually. Beneath substance, beneath shape, beneath the narrative of your life, there's vibration. And that vibration connects with a realm, the dimensional realm, where every potential version of your reality currently exists. Not just theoretically, not just as fantasy, but as genuine, measurable possibilities. In dimensional mechanics, we call this the superposition principle, the concept that particles exist in multiple conditions simultaneously until they are witnessed. The moment they're witnessed, the wave of infinite possibilities dissolves into one specific reality. That action of dissolving is not inactive. It's not impartial. It's determined by the witness, by consciousness. Now consider that. If the universe, at its most basic level, is composed of energy that responds to observation, then who you are being, what you are experiencing, what you are anticipating is actively forming the reality that appears before you. You're not a passive observer. You're the witness, dissolving your life into shape every single day. And this is where the spiritual combines with the scientific. When you continue to observe your life through the perspective of restriction, I'm falling behind, nothing is functioning, I can't transform, you dissolve that same resonance repeatedly. Not because it's your destiny, but because you haven't altered your observation, you haven't altered your frequency, and the realm mirrors you, not your wish, but your vibration. This is why desire by itself isn't sufficient. You can want something with your conscious awareness, but if your emotional condition, your internal broadcast, is still rooted in fear, doubt, or inadequacy, the realm receives that signal and arranges reality accordingly. Let's express that again more clearly. The dimensional realm doesn't respond to what you desire. It responds to what you are. To shift your life, you must shift your frequency. And to shift your frequency, you must change how you observe. Not just the world surrounding you, but the identity inside you. Who are you being when nobody is observing? What emotions are you rehearsing repeatedly as if they are facts? What presumptions are you bringing to your future? These are not inactive questions. They are activations. Because as you start to observe yourself differently, as capable, as worthy, as powerful, you begin to dissolve different realities. You start to access new timelines. Not because the world changed, but because your signal did. Research shows that your personality literally creates your personal reality. In dimensional language, this means your identity, your habitual thoughts, emotions, and behaviors is the frequency that instructs the realm what to dissolve. And until that frequency shifts, you will remain connected with the same results. If this is resonating with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're just getting started. But here's the liberating reality. The realm is always listening, always observing, always responding. And the moment you appear differently, consistently, consciously, vibrationally, it begins to respond similarly. This is not mysticism. This is resonance. Your responsibility isn't to force the transformation. It's to create the coherence that makes the transformation inevitable. And coherence begins when the mind, heart, and body align in a single frequency. When what you think matches what you feel, and what you feel matches what you do. This is the state in which miracles become normal. Not because reality suddenly shifts unexpectedly, but because you've become the type of person that matches that new reality. And this brings us to the genuine invitation of the dimensional transformation. Cease chasing. Begin dissolving. Cease questioning when it will occur. Begin tuning into the frequency of already complete. Because in the realm, the version of you who has already transformed currently exists. And they're not waiting for you to arrive. They're waiting for you to remember. To cease identifying with the version of you that's stuck and begin observing through repetition, feeling, and presence. The version of you that has already stepped into the next chapter. This isn't philosophy. This is physics. And your ability to dissolve the next reality doesn't come from perfect action. It comes from persistent alignment, from choosing to become the observer that sees the world not through fear, but through possibility. So if you're wondering, how do I transform? You don't. You dissolve, and the transformation happens as a side effect of who you choose to be. Now here's where most people misunderstand the dimensional transformation. They envision it as a singular, dramatic moment, a flash of change, a cinematic breakthrough. And while those moments can happen, they're not the standard. The real transformation happens differently, quietly, repeatedly, through what we call resonance micro-shifts. In dimensional terms, even the smallest shift in frequency changes the realm. The universe doesn't reward force, it responds to coherence. And coherence is built not in massive gestures, but in consistent alignment. One thought, one choice, one moment at a time. Consider a sound frequency. When activated, it begins to vibrate, and any other object on the same frequency will begin to resonate in response. That's what your reality is doing. It's resonating with you. So the question isn't, how do I transform? But how do I begin to vibrate in harmony with the version of me who already lives that life? It begins with purposeful action, not just movement, but movement infused with significance. Every action you take carries frequency. A hurried morning sequence vibrates differently than a conscious pause to breathe into your future. A distracted choice vibrates differently than one chosen from awareness and precision. Let's make this practical. Start with ceremony over habit. Instead of unconsciously repeating your day, inject symbolic meaning into your actions. When you dress, ask, what would the version of me who already made the transformation wear today? When you hydrate, bless it with a purpose. When you write, don't just release, proclaim. Next, conduct a space assessment. Your environment holds memory, holds identity, and often it reflects the frequency of who you were, not who you are becoming. Begin to adjust your surroundings to reflect your evolved self. You don't need to redesign your home, relocate a chair, organize a drawer, create space, the realm notices. And more importantly, you notice. And that changes everything. Now let's discuss thought monitoring. This is powerful. Begin to observe your mental patterns, not to criticize them, but to understand what identity they're supporting. I lack time. I'm not reliable. This is challenging. These aren't just fleeting thoughts. They are vibrational commands to the realm. So capture them, not with shame, but with curiosity, and then gently redirect. I'm learning to create time. I'm selecting presence. Flow is accessible. Then practice immersive visualization. Don't just see your future, experience it, breathe it, enter it. Before making a decision, pause and ask, what would evolved me choose? And then act from that frequency. This is not pretending. This is training the realm to recognize the new signal you're transmitting. Because here's what the dimensional realm responds to: integrated energy. Not wishful thinking, not empty repetition, but choices that carry emotional weight and energetic integrity. You're not just thinking new thoughts. You're being someone new. And that distinction is everything. And here's your foundation. It doesn't matter how small the action is. If it's aligned, it's powerful. Light a candle and set an intention. Take a walk and rehearse your new identity in your mind. Look at yourself in the mirror and speak to your reflection as if you already are the version you've been waiting to become. Because the truth is, you are. And every micro-action becomes a vote for that reality. And now, here's your moment of activation. If you're ready to embody your next transformation, if this message awakened something in you that you can't ignore, declare it. Comment below, I am transforming, not just to write it, but to signal it, to imprint it into the realm, to speak to the version of yourself that's watching from the future, waiting for you to remember who you are. This is the difference between wanting and becoming, between waiting and aligning, between hoping and transforming. You're not being tested, you're being calibrated. And every micro-choice you make in this new frequency, especially the ones no one sees, is dissolving the next version of your life into form. The transformation isn't something you achieve, it's something you become. This is the aspect most people miss. They think the transformation is a destination, a moment, a result. But in dimensional terms, it's none of those things. The transformation is an energetic signature. It's the frequency of alignment that begins to emit from you the moment you stop chasing and start being. Let me share something that might surprise you. The biggest transformations I've witnessed in people weren't the dramatic, overnight changes. They were the quiet, subtle shifts that accumulated over time. A woman who started speaking to herself with more kindness. A man who began walking differently, carrying himself with quiet confidence. A student who stopped apologizing for taking up space. These micro-transformations might seem insignificant, but they're actually profound dimensional shifts. Because when you change how you relate to yourself, you change how the universe relates to you. When you alter your internal frequency, the external world has no choice but to respond accordingly. There's a phenomenon in physics called morphic resonance. The idea that when something learns a new pattern, it becomes easier for others to learn that same pattern. The same principle applies to personal transformation. Every time you choose your evolved self over your survival self, you're not just changing your own life. You're making it easier for others to make similar choices. This is why your transformation matters beyond just your personal experience. You're literally contributing to the collective shift in human consciousness. Your willingness to step into your higher potential gives others permission to do the same. But here's what I want you to understand about the timing of transformation. We live in a culture obsessed with instant results, but dimensional shifting operates on a different timeline. Your soul doesn't work on human deadlines. It works on divine timing, which often means things unfold in ways and timelines you couldn't have imagined. I've seen people who were convinced their transformation was taking too long suddenly have everything click into place in a matter of weeks. I've also seen people who tried to force quick changes end up cycling through the same patterns for years. The difference isn't in the techniques they used or how badly they wanted it. It was in their ability to trust the process and align with natural flow rather than forced effort. Becoming isn't loud. It doesn't come with fanfare or drama. It begins quietly when you start treating the future you want not as a fantasy, but as a memory. You're remembering how to live. This is the real power. When you move through your day no longer asking, "How do I get there?" but instead whispering, "This is who I am now." You brush your teeth as your expanded self. You check your phone from your next timeline. You walk into every room not hoping to fit in, but radiating the energy of the reality you're already connected to. Because once you've felt the next version of your life, even for a second, you can't go back. You might try, you might delay, but your soul already knows. And that knowing is what creates the transformation. Not the timeline, not the effort, the identity. That's the paradox. You don't transform and then become someone else. You become. And that is the transformation. Everything that's appearing in your reality right now is a reflection of past frequencies and the old signals that are fading. What's important now is not what you're seeing, but what you're transmitting. Because the realm is tuning in not to your hopes, but to your coherence. Ask yourself right now, what frequency are my habits vibrating at? What would shift if I treated this moment as sacred? What would I say no to if I fully believed my future was already happening? You're already transforming, even if you can't measure it yet, even if the external hasn't caught up to the internal, even if part of you still doubts, the deeper part knows. You're not the same person who started this video. Something clicked, a veil lifted, a code was remembered. And that remembrance is enough to start dissolving new outcomes. So if the transformation feels distant, pause and check in. What if it's already in motion? What if the realm is already rearranging around your new vibration? What if the most powerful thing you can do right now is keep becoming? Because your nervous system doesn't need to be convinced. It needs to be led. It needs consistency, safety, intention. That's how you train your body to trust a new frequency. That's how you walk forward as if the transformation has already happened. And soon enough, the world around you reflects it back. This is becoming, not a linear climb, but a vibrational alignment, a choice repeated to no longer abandon your higher self just because the old world hasn't caught up yet. And it's time to anchor that choice. If this message resonated, if you feel it not just in your mind, but in your body, it means your transformation is active. So speak it into the realm right now. Comment, "I am transforming." This isn't just a comment. It's a declaration. It's a dissolution. It's a thread between this version of you and the one who's already living everything you once thought was impossible. You're not on your way. You're already arriving. And every breath, every thought, every choice that aligns with that truth is the transformation. There's a moment, usually quiet, almost undetectable, where something inside you shifts. You can't fully explain it. You can't point to one specific cause. But suddenly, the craving to make it happen fades. The need to control dissolves. And what's left is something deeper, something more still, something sacred. That is the frequency of the silent transformation. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No fireworks, no grand gestures. But internally, it's a dimensional detonation, a dissolution, a reconfiguration of your entire being around a new center of gravity. You're no longer chasing. You're no longer trying. You're no longer asking if it's working. You're simply being as the version of you that knows it already is. This is the most powerful shift you can make. Because the realm doesn't respond to noise. It responds to coherence, to clarity, to the inner stillness that says without a word, I'm ready. And in that readiness, that silent frequency, the transformation becomes inevitable. You don't need to force your way into your future. You need to vibrate your way into it. And the highest vibration is not frantic energy. It's peace. The kind of peace that comes from inner congruence, from the end of inner war, from the alignment between your vision and your vibration. This peace isn't passive. It's powerfully active. It's the peace of knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, becoming exactly who you're meant to become. It's the peace that comes from trusting your own process so deeply that external validation becomes irrelevant. I want to address something that comes up for many people during this transformation: the fear of losing yourself. As you begin to shift and evolve, you might worry that you're losing touch with who you really are. But here's the truth. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself. You're shedding the layers of conditioning, expectation, and limitation that were never truly you to begin with. The person you're becoming isn't someone new. It's who you've always been underneath all the programming. It's your authentic self finally being given permission to emerge. This is why the transformation can feel both foreign and familiar at the same time. Foreign because it's different from who you've been acting like, but familiar because it's who you've always been at your core. There's also something I call transformation resistance syndrome that happens to almost everyone going through this process. It's when people get close to their breakthrough and then unconsciously sabotage themselves or create drama to pull themselves back into familiar territory. This happens because our nervous system is wired for survival, not growth. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar joy. Known limitation feels more secure than unknown potential. So just when you're about to step into your new reality, your old survival programming kicks in and tries to protect you from the danger of change. Recognizing this pattern is crucial because when it happens, and it will happen, you won't mistake it for a sign that you're going in the wrong direction. Instead, you'll recognize it as your old self making one last attempt to keep you small, and you'll gently but firmly choose your evolution anyway. When you stop resisting who you're becoming, you accelerate it. And yes, the mind will still ask, but when will it happen? The answer is always, it's already happening. The signs may be subtle at first, a shift in how you speak, how you react, what you allow. But over time, they compound. The outer world begins to catch up. You receive an email, a call, a connection, and it feels like magic. But it's not magic. It's resonance. You were vibrating in a reality long before it arrived. And when it did, you were already there. This is the paradox of the dimensional transformation. It doesn't feel like transforming. It feels like arriving into something that was always yours. A reunion, not a revolution. A remembrance, not a chase. And from this place, you stop needing proof because you are the proof. You're living it breath by breath, step by step, timeline by timeline. So if you find yourself in the silence between who you were and who you're becoming, honor it. If you feel like nothing is happening but everything is changing, trust it. If you're not sure what the next step is, but you know you can't go back, celebrate it. You are in the transformation, not about to take it, not preparing for it, already in it. And this is your invitation to stay, to continue vibrating at the level of the life you've chosen, to show up each day not as the version of you who's still waiting, but as the one who's already chosen. Not because you're pretending, but because you're remembering. There's a realm around you right now, watching, listening, responding, and every time you align without needing validation, you accelerate the arrival. Every time you embody without needing applause, you expand the capacity. Every time you allow instead of force, you become magnetic to realities that once felt impossible. And so we close this journey with a gentle but powerful truth. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you're ready for. And readiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you become. And if this journey spoke to you, if you felt seen, remembered, elevated, then this space is for you. This isn't just a video, it's a frequency. And if you want to keep vibrating in it, to keep expanding with us, I invite you to subscribe. Not just for more content, but because when you subscribe, you're saying yes to more moments like this, more reminders of who you are, more alignment with the realm that's been waiting for you to arrive. Because your transformation isn't coming, it's here. That one shift you've been searching for? It's not external. It's the moment you stop believing you're stuck and start recognizing you're exactly one change away from everything shifting. That change isn't about doing more. It's about being more. It's about quantum shifting into the version of you that already knows how to live the life you've been dreaming of. Because in the dimensional realm, that version isn't coming. They're already here, waiting for you to remember. Now, to take this even deeper, you need to understand exactly why the observer effect changes everything about your reality. Because once you grasp this one scientific principle, you'll never see your power the same way again. Watch this next.